What's going on, everybody? It's the Bulls Show, aka Aidan, and welcome back to another video. Today, we've got a Chicago Bulls versus Portland Trail Blazers game reaction. In the end, the Chicago Bulls was dominant in the first half, keeping this Portland team looking at a very weakened state. And then the collapse of the Chicago Bulls and the rise of the Portland Trail Blazers ended up happening, and we ended up losing this game late on. One of the most frustrating games you could ever watch in terms of an NBA season is watching your team in control and then collapsing in the second half. But we're going to talk all about it in this video. Before we get started, please like and subscribe to the Bulls Show, turn notifications on, and let me know in the comments below your thoughts about this game today. Who was your player of the game, and just overall your thoughts on the Chicago Bulls game today. We ended up losing this game 112 to 107. As I mentioned before, we were dominant in the first half. In the first half, Portland looked like a team that didn't necessarily even care about playing the game. They were not really in rhythm. No one really contributed. Their best players were not really ever involved in the game. And then in the second half, it's like we stopped playing and they just started. They're just like, okay, we have a game. Let's go and play. And the Chicago Bulls were pretty much lackluster. We let them come back, and that's the worst thing you could do. This is the worst, one of the worst losses of the season, definitely for me. I hate these kinds of losses. A blowout against the Warriors, I can understand that, I can accept that. At least you see it coming that you're going to lose that game. When you're in control 20 points in the first half, when you have a 63 to 48 lead in the first half, I don't care who you are, you have to keep playing the game. You cannot just, maintain, or you can't just struggle your way through a second half and expect to win the game. We ended up deserving to lose the game because we stopped playing. We have to keep playing. We have to keep running. We have to keep showing that energy, showing that defense in all four quarters. You cannot play two halves. You cannot play one half of elite basketball, some of the best basketball you've ever seen. Portland couldn't get an inch in terms of their offense. And then in the second half, you let them, you get them at wide open shots. You let their bench get involved. You let players like Tony Snell make open threes. You let players like Larry Nance Jr. just dominate you in general. Then you let the starters and Nurkic come in. The second half, you also let Damon CJ get some shots. And it ended up in a collapse. And that's exactly what we saw. And this is a frustrating loss. This is definitely the most frustrated I've been watching a Chicago Bulls game, because you never want to see games like that. And it's going to happen to every team. This is why I'm not going to scream and shout and rant. We saw it last year, the Spurs and the OKC. And the OKC Thunder game, I was furious when we lost that last year by 20 or 22 points, whatever it was. And the Spurs game, I just ranted. I didn't even care about making that video. I just wanted to scream and shout. But I'm not going to do that this time around, because it will happen to every team, and it's happened to the Chicago Bulls today. So this is a learning experience now for the Chicago Bulls. You have to take this game as a learning experience. You cannot stop playing in the second half. You cannot have the poor quarters that you had in the second half. And also, you have to make sure that you keep the energy up in all four quarters. You cannot be inconsistent. DeMar DeRozan in this game ended up making so many shots in the first, couldn't buy a bucket in the second, and everything just went terribly. We lacked ball movement at the end as well. We obviously committed a lot of turnovers. We just had a lot of missed shots, a lot of bad shots. The second last play of the Bulls, or the third last play, where DeMar DeRozan took a fadeaway over a contested shot. It's one of the worst possessions I've seen all season. And we went really quick when we didn't need to go that quick. We weren't in a rush to go and get that shot. But we ended up taking some of the worst shots I've seen in the fourth quarter. Obviously, Zach LaVine's three, it was as wide open as you could possibly get. You can't really blame Zach LaVine for shooting that. But yeah, we collapsed and we could not handle it in the clutch. And you let the two players that you don't want in the game in clutch moments get going. You let Damian Lillard, one of my favorite players in the NBA, Damian Lillard, you let him get going in the fourth quarter. What do you expect is going to happen? You have to keep Damian Lillard quiet and all the time. You shouldn't even put yourself in a position for Damian Lillard to be the game changer like he was in that fourth quarter, because that's what he's known for. That's what he's been doing his whole career. So I'm not surprised that we kind of collapsed in the fourth once we let them back. CJ McCollum as well had a terrible game overall, but did make a couple of shots in the second half that got him going. Obviously, again, Norman Powell, big player for them today. Larry Nance, big player for them today. Their bench in total destroyed our bench today. So These are things we need to look at, and this has to be a learning experience for the Chicago Bulls. Just looking at the second quarter again, I'm going to keep on dragging this out. In the first quarter, we were dominant. Second quarter, we were dominant. In the third quarter, Portland scored 33-22, and Portland then in the fourth quarter scored 31-22. So we had two really poor quarters in the third or fourth, and they had two really poor quarters in the first and the second. So this ended up being a balanced game overall, and we walked away with a loss away from home. This is not the worst loss that you're going to see, in my opinion. Losing to Portland away is not a bad loss to have, but it's just the way and the manner that you lose that is frustrating. Getting blown out, again, it hurts, it sucks, but at least you see it coming, as I said. This game, we were in control. We had the game on our terms, and we let it slip away very slowly as well. So it gave us our heart-in-mouth moments, thinking that we could potentially still win this. We're still in the lead. And all of a sudden, in the last few minutes, they take the lead, they take control, and then they win the game. So we have to learn from a game like this and make sure this is not something we see happen too often. We cannot allow losses like this into our system for too long, because that's where we see the Chicago Bulls of last year come into play, where the momentum just keeps on swinging, and then we can't trust this team enough to end up closing out games. It's too early to say that now that I don't trust this team, but at the moment, that loss definitely does hurt if you're a Bulls fan. And at the end of the day, they ended up choking a really important second half. So let's see what happens in future games. Obviously, we'll look at individual performances now. Starting off with Alex Caruso, 12 points, 10 rebounds, 9 assists, 2 steals, and 2 blocks. Alex Caruso was phenomenal today. Shooting-wise, he only had 33% from the field. There's not too much to say in terms of scoring, but he nearly got a triple-double. He was phenomenal in today's game, in my opinion. Defensively as well, putting a player like CJ McCollum on clamps for pretty much the majority of the game is very, very, very good to see. And obviously, he wasn't the biggest impact player, CJ McCollum. Their bench was their biggest impact. And the starters did it very well in shutting down those two players. So you have to give credit to the starters for their defense in the first half specifically, and Alex Caruso played a big part in that. Zach LaVine had 30 points, 6 rebounds, and 2 assists with 1 block. At the end of the day, Zach LaVine was our best player. It's as simple as that. Did he force up shots? Absolutely, he forced up shots. And again, these two, especially Zach and DeMar, when their shots are falling, everyone's going to praise them like they're the best players in the league. But when their shots do not fall, they are probably the most frustrating things you could watch as a Chicago Bulls fan. At least that's how I feel when I watch them. When I see DeMar take some of the shots that he takes and he misses them, they're a bit frustrating shots. Same with Zach LaVine forcing up some threes that just wasn't necessarily good from the Chicago Bulls today. But he dropped 30 on really good efficiency, 7 from 12 from three-point line, 11 from 20 overall. It's not a bad game from Zach LaVine, and I would be a hypocrite if I said that Zach LaVine was bad today because we lost the game, when he had a very similar performance against the Lakers and we won the game. So I'm not going to say too much in relation to Zach LaVine. Lonzo Ball had 17 points, 4 assists, 4 rebounds, 2 steals, and 2 blocks. Lonzo was also really good today, in my opinion. Again, it is very hard to stop players like Damian Lillard, CJ McCollum, Norman Powell, the players that Lonzo Ball was guarding. He also had a fair, decent time on Larry Nance as well. What I liked about Lonzo Ball is that in the fourth quarter, he definitely was not a passenger. He got as much as he can into that paint to try and create something for himself, and it ended up working very well for him. He got really 2 open layups, and the defense is not expecting him to cut. So every time he does cut, especially in this game, he got open layups today. He shot 53% from the field today as well, which goes to show that Lonzo did have a good game today as well. And it's just a shame that we couldn't walk away with the win, knowing that all 4 of these guys, pretty much, even DeRozan, had strong games in my opinion. But speaking of DeRozan, he had 22 points, 4 rebounds, 5 assists, 1 steal, and 2 block. And the most important stat, in my opinion, is the efficiency, because he took 19 shots today on 36% from the field, or 37% from the field. So that's where our weakness lied in today's game. DeMar DeRozan was not making his shots. He ends up getting 22 and 5, which is not a bad stat line in total throughout the course of the game. But of course, it does suck to see that he wasn't making the shots that he normally makes. They threw double teams, they threw zones at him, and I think it threw him off his game, and he ended up trying to facilitate for other players a little bit too much. He got 5 assists, which is not bad, but then his own shot wasn't falling, and he just kept on taking them. He made a living off of the line today as well, so up and down, I guess you could say, for DeMar DeRozan at best. But the efficiency numbers is not what you see in recent games. He's shooting over 50% from the field in recent games, so this is definitely a big step back for DeMar DeRozan. Tony Bradley had 6 points, 4 rebounds, and 1 block. Tony Bradley, in my opinion, did not have a great game. I'm going to be honest. I thought he was one of the worst performances on the court today. I thought foul trouble very early held him to limited minutes. He played 21 minutes today while the rest of the starters played over 35. You also saw that he ended up not really being ready offensively, not catching the ball. He got a really lucky lob where he didn't catch it, but it still went in. Luck was on Tony Bradley's side in a lot of instances today, but he was not a great performer today. The foul trouble, I thought all of our centers were poor today, to be honest. But yeah, Tony Bradley got into foul trouble, kind of stopped him from playing. Yusuf Nurkic bullied him and Derrick Jones Jr. today. And again, size issues. That's what we were talking about, the size issues of the team. It ended up being a really big issue, as you saw Larry Nance and Nurkic end up having really strong games today. So that's our weakness in the team. And now it's time to see how we are going to fix an issue like that. Derrick Jones Jr. moving to the bench, speaking of another poor performer, in my opinion, had 6 points, 3 rebounds, 1 assist, 1 steal, and 1 block. What I liked about Derrick Jones Jr. is at least he is not willing to give up. And that is probably the key you could take away. He struggled today. He got blocked so many times for 6 points and only shooting 42%. Not really the best for Derrick Jones Jr. Foul trouble, he got 5 fouls very, very early. I just think he lost his confidence a bit, but he kept on trying. That's the best thing I could probably say about Derrick Jones Jr. today. I don't really want to say too much else. Javonte Green, 6 points, 1 assist, 1 rebound. He got into a really nice potential three-point play if he made the dunk. And that's all I really remember from him. He's an energy player. He likes to play a little bit of defense and everything of that sort. So that's just the type of player that he is, and that's what we saw today. Ayo Dosunmu had 8 points and 2 rebounds with 1 steal. I like the play where he was pushing the inbounder. He ended up getting a quick steal and a layup. That really swifted the momentum of the game, especially when we needed a shot like that. But overall, I can't say too much in relation to Ayo as well. Again, this is the type of game that we expect from him. He plays out, he runs in transition. I thought when he came on, he changed the energy of the game. But outside of that, yeah, he shot 100% from the field today. So you've got to give him credit. He was making shots. And Kobe White with 1 rebound and 1 assist in today's game. Only played 10 minutes. He took shots. He took 2 shots again, and he missed them both. So he needs to be ready, man. We need him to shoot. We cannot see a passive Kobe White. That's probably the one thing we don't want to see that. Whether he's making shots or missing shots, I think he needs to put himself in position to shoot. You saw a couple of times where he was in good position to shoot a three-pointer, and he kind of just hesitated. He didn't shoot it. He put the ball back into his chest and tried to get somebody else open. With Kobe White, it's going to come in time. I really, really believe it. It's going to come in time, and we're going to see Kobe White being able to shoot and wanting to shoot the ball. It's an adjustment period for him more than anybody else on the team. But he only played 10 minutes, so he's far from the reason that we lost the game today, in my opinion. There were many, many, many poor performances in the second half that really struggled for the Chicago Bulls. The must improve for me is probably going to be one of the two between Derrick Jones Jr. and Tony Bradley. And I really don't know who to give it to. I think they both had fairly equal games. I guess I'm going to give it to Tony Bradley because he is the starting center for the Chicago Bulls. He played a little bit more minutes than Derrick Jones Jr. And he is someone that I expect a lot more of in terms of defensively on this team. I thought his pick and roll defense today was really, really poor. And I understand Damian Lillard is someone that you have to keep an eye on all times. You have to blitz her sometimes. But the pick and roll defense, we literally gave Nurkic some of the most open layups you could ever ask for as a center. This center game, it was easy for him today, Nurkic. Put it that way. And it's not someone that I always want to see have easy games. Nurkic is a great center, but he's not a center that will always end up having easy games every game. He's not one of those types of centers. But we made it very easy for him. The pick and roll defense was poor. The paint defense was poor. And I think Tony Bradley's a big responsibility in terms of the pick and roll side of things. I thought in total, our pick and roll defense was really bad today. So that's something that we do need to work on. The player of the game, I mean, it doesn't really matter, but I would give it to Zach LaVine for his efficiency and the ability to drop 30 tonight. That's all I could really say. He did force up shots. I don't like that he forced up shots, but it's Zach LaVine, and we're going to see it, and we just have to live with it. This is what Zach LaVine does. Some of the worst shot selections you could possibly ask for in an NBA team, Zach LaVine can make. So when he makes them, no one's going to complain, and when he does miss them, people are going to say it's a bad shot. It's just the way that the NBA is. People say the same thing with Stephen Curry. When Stephen Curry makes half courts double teamed and he makes them, it's Stephen Curry. We all know what he can do. When Stephen Curry misses double teamed half court, it's a bad shot. Simple as that. It's just the way that it is. And I don't want to see him force up shots, but that's just something that we do see on occasion. The Bulls' record is 10-5. This is a wasted opportunity in my opinion, but we do have one more game to capitalize on this Western Conference trip. Again, we have to keep focused on the main goal here. We want to go out of this Western Conference trip with a positive record. Right now, this Western Conference trip, we sit 2-2. So we have one more game in this Western Conference trip where if we can win that game, we can end up walking out of the West feeling really happy and proud of the Chicago Bulls team. This loss sucks. The Warriors loss sucks. Two of the biggest losses and worst losses, in my opinion, of the season came in this Western Conference trip. But back-to-back against the Clippers and the Lakers, two of the biggest wins for our season so far as well. So it's an up and down trip so far. And this is definitely a wasted opportunity when the game was under your control. And our next game is against the Denver Nuggets. We are going to verse another team that has dramatic size over the Chicago Bulls. So we need to see how we respond. They do have some players injured, I believe. Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr. won't be playing in that game. So we do have to see how that goes. But Denver are also in a position right now where they're performing very well in their season, and that's what we expect. They're a great team, the Denver Nuggets, and we have to go out there and we have to play really hard, and obviously we need to make sure we can capitalize on Denver after a wasted opportunity like this, and I truly see this as a wasted opportunity in my opinion. With that being said, I'm going to end the video here. I'm not going to overreact to a loss like this, as I wasn't going to overreact to a game like the Warriors. I understand this team's going to have its ups and its downs. It's going to have some mental lapses. But hopefully all of these learning experiences will get them focused and ready for when we need those important wins, when we need those wins towards the end of the season. A loss like this does hurt. It's away from home against Portland, so it's not the worst loss in the world. If this was at home, I'd be much more upset. But it is definitely a wasted opportunity, and I don't think anyone can defend the Chicago Bulls second half today. So let's end the video here. Let's not get too much more into it. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe if you're new. It's a frustrating loss. We're just going to move on. Stay safe, stay healthy, and stay tuned for more. We will see you against Denver. Take care, and peace.